Hey, thank you. Hello, guys. We're back here with Yapping with Noah. I'm your talk show host today, Noah Reynolds. First, before we get to our excellent guest speaker, we're gonna get into our intro and context, which is supposed to be 500 to 800 words of scripted narration, guys. All right, we're gonna start that real quick. In the article I found, titled Advocates React to Utah Ban of 13 Books in Schools and Libraries, It's a Tragedy, by Anna Betts and published by The Guardian, we read of a concept we have become well versed with while taking Comms 1500. We have learned about book bans and how they not only affect learners in current times, but also affected learners and readers in the past. However, I want to come here today with a teacher that I know very well to discuss this issue. I'm reaching out to see if governments and legislatures should be allowed the choice of what books should be banned, or if this responsibility should fall into the hands of professors and teachers who actually educate today's learners. In the article, we read how, in Utah, a recent law has been passed by the state's legislature and signed in by the governor preventing certain books from hitting the library shelves of Utah's public schools. We read, the law, which formally took effect on 1st of July, states that education agencies in Utah should prioritize protecting children from the harmful effects of illicit pornography over other considerations. Close quote. From this law, 13 books have recently been banned. Of the 13, we find that 3, including Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood, Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur, and Forever by Judy Blume, have been completely banned from schools due to apparent pornographic or indecent material being found in these books. Now, I do not know if this includes colleges, but I assume colleges are not included in the ban and that younger audiences are the targets to be protected. From this ban, we find that many library associates as well as free speech groups and adjoining advocates are not pleased with this law and the banning of books. In the article from Betts, we even read words from an individual residing within these parties stating, "It's a tragedy," said Deborah Caldwell-Stone, the director of the American Library Association's Office for Intellectual Freedom. We know that book bans limit what students can find in their libraries, but what we want to figure out is if this is protecting the students or ruining their education by not providing all resources for growth. We are also attempting to figure out if forming laws such as this one in Utah is unconstitutional and if legislatures and governors such as the one in Utah should be allowed to ban books. It seems from this article that Anna Betts forms an argument against book bans. However, as a learner and reader attempting to educate myself in his own life and on a journey through college, I want to know how a teacher would specifically feel about this current event. This is why I have brought my mother here today to hear her opinion on the matter. Questions that I will be asking to receive her entire opinion include such things as, do book bans have any effect on the biology that you teach? Question. If so, how does it affect you and what you teach when political representatives and other parties vote to ban books in libraries? And also, in this article, I found that the Utah legislature is banning sexually explicit books. How does this make you feel, and do you think this is acceptable? Question mark. By doing so, we might be able to grasp an idea of whether or not the educators of our world will band together against or for book bannings. Oh, stop it, you guys. All right, we're back here with Yapping with Noah. I'm your talk show host, Noah Reynolds. Who are we here today with?
Stephanie.
All right, hello, Stephanie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Okay, obviously, I know you as mom, but who am I here today with so the listeners know?
Yes.
What do you do? What do you do?
I am your mom. I am Stephanie Reynolds. I'm a professor of biology at 2 different universities, and I have been teaching biology, college-level biology, for about 19 years.
Fantastic. So obviously you know what you're doing. Unfortunately, I have never had her as a teacher before, but she seems like she's amazing and knows what she's doing.
He would never say that in real.
All right.
That's okay.
Okay. So you're a teacher. How do you feel about books being banned in schools? Obviously, I know that might not relate to biology, but you're still a teacher. So how does it affect you, and what do you think about it?
Yeah, most of the time, college textbooks involving biology would probably not be banned. However, in general, books being banned, I think, is ridiculous and absurd. Now, caveat to that, if they were very, very sexually explicit books for no reason, not educating in any way, I can see that. But books are being banned that literally have maybe one word in them that is not appropriate. Or maybe they discuss racism or sexual assault or maybe something that is a little taboo. Now, when we're banning those, we are really banning these educational books that are going to help teach people about real life and real things. And if we are banning these books, we are literally like keeping our children from being able to learn and grow and be socially aware.
So you're looking at it kind of like as a mom too, not only as a teacher.
Both. Right.
Yeah.
Some of the books that are banned are ones that I read and that were fundamental to my learning in high school and college. I can't even imagine not being able to read those today. And again, because maybe a word is in or because it discusses something that is a little bit maybe taboo, I think it's absurd.
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, not obvious so the listener wasn't present when we were talking about it, but regarding my article that I found, we decided to look at 3 of the books that were bound, right? And we found that one of them was talking about a rape victim and a rape advocate. Now, with like a book like that, this is kind of going off script completely, but with a book like that, should that be allowed in like kindergarten to senior high school levels,
I think, of course, there's always a level of which the book should be allowed. Yes, kindergarten level, I would think even anything through elementary school might not be an appropriate setting for books that involve sexual assault, violence, maybe again, racial themes, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, absolutely in high school. Like I said, some of these books that they are banning are ones that I read and that again, I couldn't even imagine my kids or students in high school not being able to read.
So maybe these, specifically in Utah, these legislatures and governors that are banning these things, do you think that they're attacking the wrong thing?
Absolutely. I think they're focusing on the wrong thing. I think they're so afraid of exposing kids to inappropriate things. But the problem is, or the thing is, in real life, we are exposing our kids to so many things, and social media is just awful.
For sure.
But and the effects on children and teenagers. However, so many of these books that are being banned are really educational books, and are not going to just introduce themes and then just exploit them or things like that. They are introducing them to talk about them, to help students and kids understand that these are things that are happening around us.
Yeah.
And I think trying to take that away from students and kids, I think is not going to help them. It's not going to be beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a surprise to us living in Utah, but obviously Utah's more of a Republican state.
I would say conservative. Yes,
conservative
state.
Because of that, do you think that's why these books are being banned? Like, obviously they're not going to be banned everywhere, but do you think Utah is specifically banning these books because of that aspect we have?
More conservative people shy away from exposing kids to things. That they don't want their kids to hear the language or see certain things or stuff like that. However, I think there is a line. I think there is a line that maybe shouldn't be crossed. I think, again, if a book includes like graphic depictions of nudity for no reason, or maybe pictures of actual nudity or things like that, that might be a little bit extreme. But if it's talking about somebody who was sexually assaulted and that's why it is including nudity, then I think that is, of course, something that is applicable and something that kids, and again, at a certain grade level, should be able to be exposed to.
All right. To stem to my next question then, and kind of to bring back the teacher aspect of it. So obviously these books are being banned in kindergarten to senior years levels of high school. Does this have any effect on students you may teach in college then?
I think so. I think because then students, I think just in general, students nowadays are very different than students were maybe 5-10 years ago. Whether that be because of COVID or because of these book bannings, things like that. But yeah, I think it's not allowing students, I think they're more naive and they're not as, I don't know, can't think of the word, but they're not as exposed to the world. They're sheltered. And
For sure.
I think then they're going to learn about these things in other ways that probably aren't going to be as helpful and as educational to them.
Gotcha. Do book bans have any effect on the biology that you teach? I think we kind of went over that a little bit.
Yeah, not really, but again, maybe in the sense of, students might be more naive coming into a biology class, so that when I am talking about, for example, sexual reproduction, or, the production of sperm or eggs, in a male or a female, that if they're like kind of, maybe they might cringe, or they might feel a little bit like that's inappropriate, but it's absolutely extremely appropriate and important knowledge in biology. And so if they aren't being exposed to those words and those terms, they might be a little bit feeling a little bit awkward, even though these are things that we talk about very often in biology.
For sure. And I mean, that goes back to what you were saying about the whole sheltering thing. Like, some of these students, that's, you're going to cringe and stuff like that. I remember, personally for myself, a biology class that I took a semester ago, I mean, he specifically asked, if you don't want to talk about the subject, you can leave the room right now.
Exactly.
Obviously, no one did, but I mean, it's kind of scary to think about, some students wouldn't want to hear that stuff, because, I mean, as a student myself, I want to be exposed to anything and everything.
Yeah, well, right? And also things that are really appropriate and important to understand. So for example, when I talk about, again, the production of eggs, I talk about menstruation in females, and I do it so that the females, of course, know and then can understand better what's happening to them in their bodies, but also so that males can understand what females are going through, what is happening in a female's body. Because a lot of men are naive to that and don't understand really the process and why females are menstruating, that it is a part of reproduction, and it is a natural process. And so I actually purposely expose my students to that, because I know how important it is for them to understand that.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what these Utah legislatures and stuff are specifically banning. They're banning those sexually explicit contents.
But again,
there's a level to it. There's a level.
If we're talking about for no reason, then that doesn't, and talking about really graphic things.
Mm-hmm.
For example, let's say that book 50 Shades of Grey. That is not a book that really should any high school student or anyone below should read. It is very sexually explicit and graphic for just the reason of being that way, and for
less educative. It's not even educative.
No, it's not.
That's not even. It's not even. It's not even a topic they're trying to go for.
And so
I wouldn't call that educative at all.
Things that are talking about, let's say somebody again who might have been sexually abused. That's something that should, I think, be, talked about and discussed, and something that students in high school should be aware of.
Okay, so this kind of stems. I mean, we talked about some of my questions here, but we'll stem into my next question. What if other educational books were being banned and not just sexually explicit ones?
Exactly. What if they banned a biology book because it showed a penis, or an anatomy book? That would be awful. This is stuff, these are topics and concepts that students need to know. That,
for sure.
They can't go into being, let's say, into medicine, not knowing what, how a penis works and how semen is made, or how, again, just a male is urinating through, his urethra. They need to know those things. And so just because, let's say, a penis is being depicted in a book, that should be banned, that would be absolutely insane.
Yeah. And this is why you're the perfect person to talk to this stuff about, because, I mean, you have to talk about these scary, maybe not scary, but these out-of-pocket situations, right?
Yes.
We were talking about yapping and out-of-pocket, right? These are slangs for things we're using nowadays. But yeah, it could just be, it's out of this, most people don't want to think about that stuff just unless it's educative things, right? So, but you have to talk about this stuff.
For example, in my biology class, in my biology lab, in another school I used to teach at, we would show video about basically sexual reproduction in life, and how life is how a embryo is made, and all those different things, how it goes through development. And one of the last scenes of it was a woman giving birth, and many people in the class were, again, had to look away because they were so not, ready to see a woman in labor. When the thing is, that's something that's very natural, and that's something that, again, if they are a female, that would happen to them, or if they are male, they might experience with their, partner. And So, this is something that they should be exposed to, and it shouldn't be something that they are so embarrassed at, seeing. It is something that is a very natural process. And again, especially in a biology class, something that I shouldn't see students cringe at.
Yeah, 100%. I guess it kind of, I don't know, it's kind of just scary to think that, I mean, it doesn't affect us in college, but it's scary to think about.
But what if it does? What if
being
we
banned,
are banning these books so much that all of a sudden we're like at the college level, maybe this isn't appropriate.
Yeah, in the article it was talking about how,
that effect, that snowball effect.
It's the freedom of speech advocates and groups. They're the ones who are like mostly trying to start an uproar against book bannings.
Right.
But they were saying, I remember a quote in the article was saying how they are expecting several more books, not just these 13 of them. They're expecting several more books to be banned in the upcoming months. Because this article was very recent. I forgot to add that, but this article was just happened in August of 2024.
Right.
It was very recent. And so these learners and these librarians and stuff, they are expecting way more book bans in Utah in the upcoming months.
Yeah, and that's scary.
And so that's scary.
Like, okay, so for example, there's a book that I have seen that is banned, and I'm probably it's not these 13 right here, but it is one, and it is a graphic novel, and it is depicting, again, sexual relations, and it is showing pictures of it. Yes, it's a graphic novel, so it's what do you want to call animation type of thing, or that kind of thing, a cartoon type of thing, but it doesn't matter. It still is depicting those things. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't think a student needs to be exposed to that, in school. However, if it's something that's saying, again, a racial term, and that's why it's being banned. Like I know, I believe Huck Finn, The Adventures of Huck Finn is one of those books that is banned because it does say, it has some racist overtones. But it's not something that is, but that book is an incredible book and is, talking about so much history and things like that. And so it's like you're banning it because of one small thing, I think is really wrong.
Yeah. But so you're a teacher, you have to be open to these things and you have to think about these things often. So I guess we'll end our interview with this last question. Do you think these governors and legislatures that are passing these laws to ban books, do you think they should be allowed to have the last say? Or should it be you teachers, the actual educators of our world?
Well, that's hard because we do have a democracy and we did vote these people into place.
Of course.
And, I'm not always going to agree with whatever my legislative representative is going to think. I'm more of a moderate person. I would say I lean a little towards the conservative side a little more. And so I do understand sometimes the reasoning, but then I have to go onto my more liberal side about being a teacher and thinking these, that so many of these things should be, concepts and terms and things like that students are exposed to. So it's really hard because we do elect these people into place. And so, it's one of those fine lines where, again, I need to, support my representative and who was elected into place, but also, yes, I think sometimes teachers and those who are actually, teaching the concepts and teaching these things, should have a say in the matter, of course.
Yeah. So it should be more of obviously, we have our,
I guess a group.
We're in a democracy, but it should kind of be a community event.
Community thing, right? Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been great hearing from you. In the next several minutes, we'll come back and we will discuss the last analysis and synthesis. I can't speak, guys. We'll talk about that in a couple minutes. See you guys soon. Bye-bye. Okay, thank you, guys. We're back to Yapping with Noah. I'm your talk show host, Noah Reynolds. We're still here with Stephanie Reynolds, the biology professor at UVU and BYU. She is an excellent teacher. Right now, we are in our last segment. We're going to be talking about a couple things regarding my textbook of Communications 1500. First, in our textbook, we learn of censorship. Censorship is the whole reason we are seeing books being banned. In the article I found, we see that 13 books were banned in the state of Utah because they were depicting pornographic or indecent material. So they're trying to censor that stuff. They're trying to get it off of the minds of educators, right? They're censoring it. What do you think about censorship? And should it be taken to this extent where we are banning these rape victim books? It's just, what do you think? Do you think it's the right target?
I think that censorship is not a great thing. So many of these books are educational books, and I feel like banning these books and censorship in general is just going to lead to even more, basically even people targeting more our freedom of speech and our freedom to be able to believe what we want to believe and things like that. And so, yeah, I think it's a slippery slope, and I think it could absolutely become much, much worse.
Okay. So another term we learn of in our textbook is disintermediation. Disintermediation is the elimination of gatekeepers between artists and audiences. With this, I think that technology is a perfect disintermediation, right? It makes things so much easier, like books, to be able to grab them and get in hold of them, right? So technology. This is what I'm going to lead into e-publishing. We learn about e-publishing as well in our textbook. E-publishing is the electronic publication of books. So in our article, we're seeing like the physical banning of books in libraries. What do you think about, can the electronic publication of books fix book banning? Or do you think these legislatures they're going to start banning books on technology as well, like Kindles and stuff like
I think
stuff.
That's what would eventually happen. Yes, I think that they're going to start not just banning physical books, but also ebooks, because so many of us, the majority of the population, has access to the internet and can find these books online, even if we can't find them, in a library, at a school or something like that. And so, yes, I think that eventually these legislatures are going to do is they're going to try and start banning ebooks as well.
Ebooks as well.
As physical copies, absolutely.
Gotcha. How does that make you feel about like freedom of speech though, and like our amendment rights?
Again,
are they taking those away from us?
I think it's an attack on it, absolutely.
For sure.
I think, yes, there's always, there's always these guidelines. And, yes, there's always a line of where something is maybe too sexually explicit and too graphic for a majority of people to read, you know what I mean? And we could, of course, have maybe some type of rating or something like that. But a lot of these ones are just, they have maybe small little parts or, little sections that might have something a little bit inappropriate. Or, again, they might be something where, it's dealing with sexual assault or sexual violence or something like that. And in my opinion, those should not be banned. Those are, topics that people need to be subjected to and be able to understand.
So was that I think, again, we were talking about it before, was that the Honey by Rupi? Or Milk and Honey?
Milk and Honey.
That was the
exactly.
rape victim one,
right?
Yeah,
and I'm not sure, I don't know all of the books that Utah has banned. I know in general, a lot of the books, just in general, that have been banned are ones that I read during my high school career and in college, and ones that I find are fundamentally important for students to be able to read and to be exposed to, and I just couldn't even imagine.
Just getting all sorts of ideas in education.
Right.
But then if it's being taken away from them, what's going to happen?
Exactly.
So I guess, real quick, just a yes or no question. Could the electronic publication of these books fix our whole issue if it's not banned?
I think so that people can still have access to them. So, I mean, it may be something that it's hard, because I feel like if the book, I just don't think they should be banned in general, but maybe if we do have like some type of a rating system or something to where, if we know that the person is of a certain age and what is, again, the correct audience, the appropriate audience, that they could have access to it, maybe, with ebooks.
Gotcha. Well, it's been great having you on the show, Stephanie. Let's hear it for Stephanie, right? Fantastic, right? All right. Thank you guys. You are the best listeners in the world. Love you all. Good night.